The topic is about scanner class for reading data from a file. See, we have earlier used scanner class. For what we have used scanner class? We have used scanner class for reading data from the console. So you'll, how did you create the scanner object? So we created the scanner object like this, right? Scanner input, and we'll read data from the console by passing system.in. So when the user enters some input, we get that. So now what we can do is we can read data from the file. So how to read data from a file? For that, first let me create a file object. File f is equal to new file. I already have this file output.txt which is existing, and let me create a file object for that. And inside this file, I have this text Satish is teaching Java. So I should read this data, and I should be able to read that using the scanner object. So instead of giving system.in for reading from the console, we'll just give the file object here. That's the change. So now it will read data from the file. And how you can read a line from the file is we use the object dot next line. The same methods we use for reading data from the console. So it's going to read a line. So I'll map that to a line here. String line is equal to input dot next line. So I have read data from the file. I will display sysout line. Whatever data I am reading, I am displaying that. And I'll close the scanner input dot close. Now let's run this. Satish is teaching Java. We have read data from the file using the scanner object. Earlier we were reading data using the console. So we mentioned system.in, but now it is from the file. So we give the file object here, and we read what is that we have read here is a line from the file, one line from the file. Satish is teaching Java. The next thing is, what if I have multiple lines from the file? Say Satish also teaches cyber security. Satish also teaches web programming, something like that. So we have many lines here. So how will you read every line and display to the user? See, here we have just read one line. If you want to read every line and display it to the user, there is one small change you have to do. Say we'll run a while loop. While the scanner object dot has next line. So there is this next line thing. So if this runs the loop until there is another line available. So it reads all the lines. That's the meaning here. So what we'll do is we will get every line and map it to this string. So it reads one line, maps this to the string, and we can print that line out. So you can print that line out. So when this method will return a false, when there are no more lines to read, that will return a false, so your loop ends. If you have another line to read, it will read that line, move it to line, and you'll print that line out. So let's run this. So now you can see we have read all the lines from the file. Satish is teaching Java. Satish also teaches cyber security like that. So for reading every line from the file, what you have to do is you have to run a while loop. Scanner object dot has next line returns true if there is another line in the file to read. So that line we are reading is mapped to the string, and we are printing that string out. If there are no more lines to read, this will return a false. So your loop ends. You have read all the data from the file. Very simple. Are you all clear with this? Has next line. So not only this, this scanner object is very powerful. I tried a lot of things today. See, for instance, instead of lines, I mean, if instead of string, if I have integers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 like this, what happens? I want to read integers. So for that also you have special methods for this scanner object. So what I can perform here is while input dot instead of has next line, I can go with as next int. While the input has file has more integers to read, how will you read an integer? The method is input dot next int. And here, instead of saying it's a line, I can say it's int num. And I can print all the numbers out. So you can work with numbers here too. So let's run this. So you see here, it's reading integers directly. So now you can use these integers for your mathematical operations. So what is that we are using here? Input as next int. Like that, it has some variations. See, I was giving it in a separate line. I tried this. What if I have multiple integers in the same line? 1, 2, 3, I gave a space. 789, 789 is already there. Maybe 999, 111, 222. Now what it will do? Will it read every integer separately and throw it as an output? Let's try this. Let's go to our file. Let's run this. See, it's reading every integer 1, 2, 3, 999, 111, 222. So even if you're going to give, but I have given that with a space. So automatically it considers space to be a delimiter here. And then it reads this to be an integer, this to be an integer, this to be an integer. Very effective. So like that, when you take a look at the scanner object, it has so many methods. Like you can check for integers, you can check for boolean, you can check for float, double. So you just keep a dot and then you type as next. So you can say next byte, next boolean, next float, next int, lot of things like that. So I also tried the next float. Is float really going to work? See, I can give some float values here 123.5, 999.2, 111.7, 222.3. Some float values we will give 2 and 1. Now, what is that we are reading in? We are reading in float values. So, what will be the method for reading in float values? Dot next float. You can read almost anything with the scanner object. So, it's like float num. That's it. Now let's print the float values. Control S, Control F11. All the float values are retrieved from the file one by one. Even though I am giving it in the same line, everything is retrieved independently and thrown to you. So you can experiment with bytes, double, short, boolean. There's one more thing I tried. See, instead of reading strings line by line, I just want to read strings like this, say Satish, Ram, Matthew, Tom. It's just in one line, but I want every name to be read as a separate string. I don't want you to read it as a line. Then what I can perform here is I can perform this particular thing, input dot has next. And here, instead of reading dot next line, what is that you're going to read is input dot next. That's it. Yeah, it's the next. You're just going to read the string, not next line. You just read one line. And from that line, we'll read the strings, string name. And we'll give name as the output. So what is the objective here is I have just one line of data, but inside this line I have many strings, Satish, Ram, Matthew and Tom. So I have to read every string from a single line. So for this, what we have to do, we have to come here, has next. Don't go to has next line. So and input dot next. Let's run this. So Satish, Ram, Matthew and Tom. Very effective. Like you can read floats, you can read strings, you can read lines of strings, you can read double values. The next thing is what about reading every character from the file using scanner? The next thing is I have SATISH. I want to read character by character from the file. How will I read that? That is one thing you can do with scanner. So you can read character by character, SATISH. For this, I'll go with input dot has next. So it reads Satish. Name will now contain Satish, input dot next. To read every character, I should run a loop for int I is equal to 0, I less than name dot length. It's name dot length I plus plus. Because here I have to read every character, I can give sys out. It is name dot character at index I. So it's going to get that name, then till the length of that name. What it's going to do is iterate through every character and print it. So control S, control F11. So you see character by character we have retrieved using the scanner class. Every character. So for that you should read that string and then till the length of that string you use dot caret index. So for that index you run a loop. So we have seen a lot of things with the scanner object for reading input from a file. What all we have seen? How to read line of string, how to read many lines from the file, how to read an integer, how to read integers, many integers in the same line and in many lines of integers. Like that we have checked float values. We also checked how to read string, like lot of names in one line. Right? And finally we have checked how to read characters for a string from the file using the scanner object.